Now, moving on to growth requirements, no, bacterial growth, and of course, genetics. Okay, so organisms are classified, no, like any other living organism. Bacterial organisms are classified into different groups. No, now we have three methods by which organisms or living organisms are classified. We have numerical taxonomy. This makes use of computer. Okay, so the basis for this is phonetics. Okay, trait sharing. So ano yung magkakapare-parehong characteristic nila. So a very good example of numerical taxonomy would be the use of Vitek machine, di ba? So may mga serial number yung mga organisms natin to identify them. Like for example, yung si E. coli, di ba? Meron tayo ng E. coli 0157H7. Yan, may number na siya. So para mas madaling i-identify. Okay, so there are other terms, other ways of using numbers to identify specific species or varieties of an organism. Then we have phylogenetic classification. This one is based on genetic similarity. Magkakamukha ba? Evolutionary relatedness. Oh, gaya nito, nakita niyo ba? Ang cute nila, di ba? So ito si hedgehog. Ka-cute na lang, Jude. Kani, basta kapareho pa rin nila, no? Mukhang mga daga. Ito naman guinea pig, di ba? Lahat sila pamilya, ang tawag sa kanila. Oh, syempre yung nasa taas dyan, hindi na yung kasama. Oh, pero pare-pareho naman kaming cute. Okay, so mga pamilyang rodents, di ba? Ang mga rodents, ito sila. Okay, so phylogenetically, there's the proof, no, of evolutionary relatedness. So their snouts, so their small figures, the way they eat, their teeth, yeah, for example. And lastly, the most common is phenotypic classification. So the basis for this is the overall similarity, okay? The food that they eat, the place where they live, how they grow, how they reproduce, okay? Their identifying physical characteristics, short legs, furry body, etc. So that's phenotypic classification. So again, numerical, phylogenetic, and phenotypic classification are different ways of classifying or grouping your organisms. Okay, so in classifying, we usually make use of taxonomic classification, no? So we make use of taxa or taxon. So these are a group or level of identification. So hierarchy yun, no? There are about 7 hierarchical systems. So we start with the largest, that's the kingdom, and then you have the phylum or division, and then the class, the order, the family, the genus, and the species. Okay, so to help you memorize, but I think by now you memorized this na already, diba? So you have King David or King Philip came over for good spaghetti. Okay, so species is the basic unit of taxonomy. Ito yung pinaka-identifier nasa dulo, no? Particular. Okay, so this would represent a recognized type of organism. Okay, kumbaga sa pangalan pa. O kung anak siya, kunwari si Ninoy Aquino Jr. Hindi si Noynoy na yun. Benigno Aquino Jr. O, specific yun. Siya yung anak, hindi yung tatay. Okay? So, species are usually identified by comparing them to pure culture. So, usually, ang pure cultures natin came from ATCC. Ito yung pinaka-common. May mga iba pang klase, pero ito yung pinaka-common na collection of pure cultures, the ATCC or American Type Culture Collection. Lahat ng ating mga laboratories dito, meron sila nung pure culture to compare yung kanilang mga findings. Okay? Strain, this refers to a population of microbes descended from a single culture. So, kagaya ni Salmonella enterica, yun yung species, no? Salmonella enterica. Pero si enterica, may mga strains pa siya. Okay? Salmonella enterica cholera suis, Salmonella enterica enterica, Salmonella, Enterica, Cerevisiae, Paratifi, ganun. So, sina Paratifi, Tifi, Colosuis, yung mga strains niya, no? Mga serovarieties niya. Okay? So, may iba't ibang klase ng strains. So, strains can be biovarieties, no? So, when we say biovars, the strains differ by their biochemical or their physiologic differences. Ano yung mga kinakain nilang chemical? Ano yung mga kailangan nilang chemical? Yun. Morphovores, on the other hand, and like biovores example nun si Ureaplasma urealyticum, we have the parvo and the T960. Sa morphovore naman, pinaka-example nito yung Corynebacterium diphtheriae. So meron siyang morphovore na mitis, intermedius, and gravis. Now, pag sinabing morphovore, their differences lies on their morphologic characteristics. So si mitis is, si gravis is, has big colonies. Okay? Si intermedius has medium-sized colonies, and mitis has the smallest colonies. So, ganun lang, no? Morphology lang. And then, set of varieties, kagaya nga ng sabi natin kanina, like Salmonella enterica, may mga serovar siya. So, based on their antigenic properties. So, TIFI, para-TIFI, etc. Okay? Now, this one, I'd like you to memorize this, no? Or keep this in mind always. Okay? So, microorganism scientific name or systematic name is you may usually describe, no, the structure microscopically, or it honors somebody who was able to identify them. Okay? When we look at them on books, they're usually italicized, or if you're going to write it down, there should be an underline. Okay? Most of the time, the terms are Latinized. However, they're used worldwide. No, we don't make them. They're actually established and recorded, no, for the general use of everybody. Okay? Now, remember that the species name is never abbreviated. Hindi pwede Escherichia dot. Dili pwede. Okay? A genus name, on the other hand, may be used alone. So, pwede Escherichia lang or Staphylococcus lang. Pero hindi pwede Staphylococcus A dot. Naunsa? Okay? So, pwede kang mag S, no? S dot aureus. Ganon. So, si genus pwedeng gamitin Staphylococcus, gano'n lang. Hindi pwedeng aureus only. Okay? You can use genus only, but you cannot use species only. Okay? So, kalimutan pag nag-quiz tayo, underline ang scientific name. Okay? Now, for our identification, no, of unknowns, okay, those who are yet to be identified through the methods of identification. No, we make use of the Burgess Manual of Determinative Bacteriology. Okay? In this book, we are actually taught about the use of key features to narrow down identification, yung ating dichotomous key. Ayan, yan yung dichotomous key natin. So when we do gram reaction to check out the morphology, we'll be able to see kung gram negative, gram positive. Anong rods, ano kanyang morphology? Rods ba? Okay ba? Kung nagfe-ferment, with acid ba? Or with acid and gas? No acid, no gas. Ayan, no? So the reaction can go either way. Kaya dichotomous. Dalawa yung pwedeng pupuntahan. Okay? Dichotomous. Okay? Now moving on to physical and nutritional growth requirements of bacteria. Okay, so they would require, like any other living organism, they'd require carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, all of these major elements. And of course, they would require trace elements, no, like your zinc, no, your copper, magnesium, ganun. Okay, so there are a lot of elements required by your microorganisms to grow. Okay. Now, we can also categorize or group organisms based on their physiologic requirements. Okay? So example, meron tayo nung uh, organisms that would use light as their source of energy, we call them phototrophs. Those that use chemicals, we call them chemotrophs. Kasi meron namang gumagamit lang ng inorganic chemicals, we call them chemolithotrophs. And those that would use only organic chemicals, we call them chemoorganotrophs. Okay? So autotrophs naman is used, to identify organisms that would require carbon dioxide for growth. Okay? So, autotrophs are also known as capnophiles. Okay? We also have heterotrophs. Okay? So, heterotrophs are those that would need organic compounds in order for them to survive. Okay? So, sa growth factors naman, so it's essential na nandun yung mga elements na kailangan, trace and major elements. Okay? They don't really need that in large numbers, just enough, to allow them to survive in an artificial environment. Okay? So, growth factors would include nucleic acids. Okay? They would require proteins, specifically amino acids. Okay? And then, of course, vitamins, okay? Coenzymes, enzymes. Fastidious organisms, again, are those that are very choosy. Okay? Kailangan ng maraming growth factors in order for them to grow. Okay? The second important requirement would be oxygen. Okay? So, ang oxygen natin, we can also identify organisms based on their oxygen needs. Okay? So those that would require real oxygen in order for them to survive, we call them obligate aerobes. So kinahanglan yun na yung oxygen kung wala mamamatay sila, no? And then we have facultative anaerobes. These are obligate aerobes that can now survive, even in the presence of little or no oxygen. Ang obligate anaerobes, ito yung hindi talaga pwedeng may oxygen kung hindi malulunod sila. Okay, sa oxygen. So, obligate anaerobes. And then we have aerotolerant anaerobes. Okay? So, these are anaerobic organisms that would require, that may survive even in the presence of little or no oxygen. So, parang opposite ng facultative anaerobe. So, ito naman si facultative aerobe. Microaerophils, on the other hand, katong hindi naman kain nila kinahanglan ng oxygen, gamay lang yun. And they can also survive uh, in the presence of oxygen, pero konti lang. Or sa area na medyo tagong-tago sila, gaya nito. Okay, wait. Why is always me? Right, ayan. So, pag microaerophils, konti lang, no? They only would require a small amount of oxygen for survival. Ayan. Ano palang mangyayari? No? Pag yung ating microaerophils ay nadamihan ng oxygen. Okay? So they would release or be killed by enzymes. Okay? So here are the three common enzymes produced by microbes. So we have the superoxide dismutase, catalase, and peroxidase. Okay? So obligate aerobes, facultative anaerobes, like enteric organisms, are able to produce superoxide dismutase and catalase, but they don't have peroxidase. Okay? Now, most aerotolerant anaerobes, okay, may produce superoxide and peroxidase rather, but not catalase. Okay? Obligate anaerobes, yung mga hindi talaga kailangan ng oxygen, they do not release or produce any of these enzymes. Okay? Then we have the thermal requirement. Okay, so we can actually group organisms based on their heat needs. Okay, so we have here psychrophile, those who would survive best under 0 to negative degrees Celsius. Okay, they are also called psychrotrophs or facultative psychrophiles. Okay, psychroduric, ito yung nakakapag-endure ng below 0 na mga temperatures. Okay, mesophiles, we use this term to refer to your pathogenic organisms, those who can survive, in temperatures between 20 to 45 degrees Celsius. Okay? So most of our disease-causing organisms are found, no? Would belong rather to mesophiles. Okay? And then we have here thermophiles, those that who would like to survive in the presence of heat. Okay? O, gustong-gusto nila yung naiinitan sa loob ng incubator. They grow best in temperatures above 45 degrees Celsius. Hyperthermophiles, those that can survive, no, yung uh, autoclaving temperatures na 121 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes. Okay? They can survive that. Next, we have salinity. Okay? So, water and salinity, or salt and water, okay, they play actually a very important role in living organisms. Those that like, no, uh, uh, high humidity, no, we call them humidophiles. Gustong-gusto nila yan ng humid na environment. Xerophiles, on the other side, are those that can survive with little or sometimes no oxygen for some period of time. Okay? Salt, alam na natin, no, from our previous sciences, that salt is the common solute, no, present in our system, and they may be found in different concentration ranges. Okay? So halophiles naman, these are the term, this term is used to refer to organisms that can survive in the presence of salt. Okay, so we have mild halophiles, kayang-kaya lang ng konting asin. Moderate halophiles, around 6 to 15% salt. And extreme halophiles, abot hanggang 30 degrees. 30% rather, ang kanilang requirement for salt. And then we have the halo tolerant. Ito yung mga hindi naman talaga kailangan ng salt, but they have they're able to tolerate a considerable amount of salt. Okay. So talking about water and salt, no? They are usually involved with movements, no? Across different membranes. Okay. So there are two types of movements. Okay? We have diffusion and osmosis. When we talk about diffusion, there are two types. Okay. So we have simple diffusion, or the type of diffusion where uh, solutes would just disperse and spread into areas of lesser concentration. Like coffee granules, when you put them into a cup of hot water, no, sa center mo idadrop. Pero slowly, kahit na hindi mo i-mix, di ba? They just diffuse all over and color the entire cup of water. Okay? So, simple diffusion. Walang maraming keme, walang energy masyadong na gagamit. Okay? However, that's good only for small molecules, so they could easily pass through membranes. Okay. Now, what about those with that are bigger? No, they're not able to easily pass through membranes or covering cell wall, cell membrane. They cannot. Some are not able to pass through that easily. Okay, so to accommodate molecules that are not able to pass easily across membranes, kailangan natin ng assistance. Okay, so we call that diffusion, facilitated diffusion. So in facilitated diffusion, channels or would come in handy. Okay? However, these channels would operate in the presence of energy. So, kailangan ng ATP for them to function properly. Okay? So, kagaya nito, di ba? So, this is good for large molecules like carbohydrates. They would require transporter proteins, no, or channels to allow them to enter into the cell structure. Okay. Now, what about osmosis? So when we talk about diffusion, it's the movement of solute, right? So across membranes from an area of great concentration to an area of lesser concentration. Now, si osmosis naman, ganun din, area of greater concentration to an area of lesser concentration. However, solvent naman, no water, which is commonly water. So osmosis is the movement of water from an area of greater concentration to an area of lesser concentration. So dili, no? Yung mga maliliit, those are water molecules. Ito yung cell cytoplasm. So look, wala masyadong water molecules. But because water can easily pass through, nakita niyo yung transfer ng water natin, papasok sila ng cell. Ayan, umulit-ulit. Okay? So, cell membrane daw yan. Yan naman yung mga free water. Okay? So, nakakapasok sila sa ating membrane. Ayan. Okay? Now, this movement is actually facilitated by osmotic pressure. Okay? So, the movement across membrane also has a limit. No? So, osmotic pressure is the pressure that is required not to stop water movement across the membrane. Kung tama na, okay, lumalakas ang osmotic pressure. Kung kulang pa ng water, hihina ang osmotic pressure to allow the movement. Okay? Now, what's so important about the movement of molecules and solutes sa ating bacteria? Okay, so it's important to talk about the movement of solutes in water when we're talking about bacteria because it could affect their survival, especially when they're placed in different types of environment. So sa environment, we're talking or referring here to their the solutions, no, where they are usually placed. So solutions could be isotonic, which means the concentration of solute in water is similar to the actual concentration when inside the body. Okay, so concentration of solutes, sorry. Okay, so water and solute inside the cell is similar outside the cell. So nothing changes. The organism is happily reproducing and surviving. However, when we place the same type of organism in a solution that has a lesser concentration than normal, no, yung hypotonic solution. So what happens? Okay. Pag lesser yung concentration ng environment kaysa sa loob, ibig sabihin nun parang mas maalat, no, yung nasa loob. So pag maalat, anong kailangan? Kailangan ng tubig. So water from outside the cell would enter in order to maintain balance or homeostasis. So all this happens to maintain balance or homeostasis. So to maintain homeostasis, the environment would like to balance the concentrations across membranes. So water would flow into the cell. However, okay, there's a limit, remember. Okay, so osmotic pressure facilitates when osmosis should stop. Okay, so our bacterial cells, okay, have cell walls, remember? They have cell walls that are really rigid. So it can allow, no, it can absorb water, no, to enter the cell. However, the limit, no, might be reached. Okay? So it could cause the cell walls to burst. Okay? The process where cell walls burst because of excessive entry of water molecules is called osmotic lysis. Okay? So excessive entry of water molecules into the cells would cause the cell walls to become weak. No? It would tear and so ma-damage, therefore causing the cells to undergo lysis. Okay? This is also known as plasmoptosis. Okay? Now, what if we place the same type of bacterial cell in a solution that has a higher concentration than normal? So parang mas maalat outside than inside the cell. So what will happen? Again, to maintain balance or homeostasis, okay, water from an area with greater concentration will be moved, no, towards the area with lesser concentration. So dahil yung environment, maraming solute, less ang water. So yung water inside the cell will rush out. Okay? This will cause the cell to or to undergo some changes. Ano ba yung mga changes pag lalabas yung tubig? Remember, okay, the cell wall is rigid. Okay? It can be stretched, but you cannot shrink it. So what would shrink? The cell membrane. Okay. So as the water flows outside, no, the cell into the environment to maintain homeostasis, no, para makakontribute sa pag tame, no, o pagpababa ng concentration ng environment sa labas. So, ipo-contribute yung water. So, this would cause to shrinkage of the cell membrane away from the cell wall. You can't shrink the cell wall. You can only, no, expand it, no? Extend it, but you cannot shrink it. So this process is called plasmolysis. So plasmolysis occurs when water moves out of the cell, causing the cytoplasm and the cell membrane to shrink. Okay? So plasmoptosis is the swelling and the bursting of bacterial cell. Plasmolysis is the shrinking of the cell membrane away from the cell wall. Okay. Next requirement is pH. Okay, so pH is really important in the survival of organisms. So some organisms survive in slightly acidic to alkaline environments, so 6.5 to 7.5, or in some references, it's 7.2 to 7.6. For molds and yeast, it's usually acidic. Now, they prefer acidic environments, so pH 5 to 6. So those who want to survive in an acidic environment, so acidophiles. Okay? Neutrophiles naman yung mga gusto ng pH 7. And those who would require higher pH are called alkaliphiles or alkaline-loving organisms. Okay? Now, moving on to bacterial growth. Okay? So, bakit ba natin kailangan malaman ito? Remember, because you'll be growing your microbes in the laboratory. Okay? So, bacterial growth refers to an orderly increase in the quantity of cell constituents. Bacterial cells reproduce by binary fission. Ganyan lang, oh. No? So, initially, the mother cell would replicate its genetic material, and then it would form a cleave, to divide into two daughter cells. And then eventually, pag na-complete ang ating division, there would be two separate cells. Yan. So bacterial growth is best discussed in this image. This is known as the bacterial growth curve. Okay, so there are four phases in the bacterial growth curve. Okay, first is the log phase. So this is where the organisms would still get to know the environment. There's still no metabolic processes that would occur. Eventually, when they do get the hang of the environment, they'd start to grow and multiply. Okay, this phase here is known as a logarithmic or log phase or exponential growth phase. Okay, so in this phase, organisms are rapidly, okay, multiplying and dividing, and they'd be consuming a lot of their nutrients from the environment. Eventually, okay, the number of organisms dying would be equivalent to the number of organisms dividing. Here, that would be known as the stationary or the stationary phase, no? So where organisms would, the number of waste materials may start to go up, okay? And then the nutrients would start to be exhausted. no? Then eventually, when the waste products go way beyond their nutrients, the organisms would start to die, no? And they would stop uh, multiplying. Okay? This phase here is known as the death or the decline phase. So log phase, okay? In the log phase, the organisms will not yet undergo any metabolic processes, okay? Because the enzymes are still being synthesized. The proteins are still being made, okay? And then eventually, when they get the hang of it, they start to grow exponentially, multiplying, dividing, dividing. And then they'd come to the crossroads where they uh, used up most of their nutrients, and the amount of their waste products would be at a level to their available nutrients. Okay, that's called the stationary phase. And eventually, when they use up everything, they'd start to die or decline. So this is what we call the death or the decline phase. Okay. So generation time is the time taken for the organism to double its number. It's also known as the doubling time. Ayan. So nakikita nyo si E. coli yan. Diba? Nag-umpisa lang sa isa, naging dalawa, apat, 8, 16, hangtod sa dako na kaayo siya. So this is what happens during their exponential or logarithmic phase, doubling time. Ayan. So ano nga, halimbawa, so there's one bacterium, okay? And this bacterium is able to replicate, no, or reproduce every 20 minutes. So how many would there be in an hour? So remember, they'll double their number in an hour. How many 20 minutes are there in 1 hour? Di ba tatlo? Kaya 2 is to 3 yan. 2 by 2 to the power of 3 ang nakita natin sa generation time niya. So ilan? Every 20 minutes siya dumadami. So first 20 minutes ang isa na himong duha. After another 20 minutes ang duha na himong upat. And the last 20 minutes ang upat na himong 8. So pila? 8. Okay, so the number of microbes after 1 hour is 8 na. Ang bilis, di ba? Okay, so what causes exponential growth to stop? What causes your the doubling time or generation time to stop? First, again, no? Oh, 'di ba? Nandun na sila sa kanilang death or decline phase, ayun sa kanilang stationary phase. So what happens there? Nag-start na mag-accumulate ang waste products. And syempre, divide sila ng divide, they'd be using up their nutrients. And then in the process, they'd start to produce toxins, which would be very harmful. Okay, this can cause a change in their pH. Okay, so these are the things that would cause exponential growth to stop. Okay. Now, for the last topic natin, okay, in this video, we have bacterial genetics. Okay, so ito naman ang ating objectives for bacterial genetics. So this will be really quick. No, we don't need to get into too much detail because you'll be discussing this in your molecular biology subject sa MolBio. Doon na niyan i-discuss na in-depth. Okay? So when we talk about bacterial genetics, we talk about how bacteria are able to acquire new genes. Okay? Oh, ano ba yung mga processes involved in transferring of genes? Okay? So genetic transfer are divided into two types. My vertical gene transfer, like mother to offspring, which will occur during binary fission. And then we have the horizontal gene transfer. Okay, so from one adult bacterium to another adult bacterium. Now, horizontal gene transfer is divided into three common types. Now, we have the conjugation or bacterial mating, transformation, and transduction. Okay? So let's start with conjugation. So conjugation is also known as bacterial mating. Okay? Here we have the F positive organism, a male donor. Okay? This F positive organism has the capacity to produce the sex pili. Ayan. So nag-mate sila with an F negative or a female. Walang capacity to produce the plasmid. Pero dahil sa nag-mate sila at nag-donate ng plasmid si F positive, ngayon, si female ay F positive na rin. Yan, no? So eto, ayan. May plasmid for production of pilay. Eto wala, di ba? So nag-conjugate sila, nag-mate, nag-donate si donor ng gene or ng plasmid for F positive or production of, tawag nito, pilay. Ayan. So silang dalawa na ngayon ay parehong F positive. Ayan. So, again, conjugation is also known as bacterial mating, and this is quite common in enteric gram-negative bacteria. Okay? Next, we have the resistance plasmid conjugation. Papakita ko lang to sa inyo. Okay? So, yung resistance plasmid conjugation, similar din, okay? Kaya lang dito, yung may R plasmid, they can both produce sex pili, plus they are able to resist antibiotics. Okay? So, similar sa kanina, okay? O, ngayon, yung kanilang recipient ay meron na rin capacity to produce, okay? Or become resistant at meron na rin capacity to produce sex pilus. Ayan, di ba? So may sex pilus at may antibiotic resistance properties. Magko-conjugate sila at ipapasa nila yung kanilang abilidad. Ayan. Okay, so that's how bacteria will be able to acquire new powers through conjugation. Next type of gene transfer, horizontal gene transfer is transformation. Okay, so transformation only occurs in competent bacteria. And competent bacteria are those who has the REC-A protein. Okay, this REC-A protein allows the organism to absorb genetic material from the environment. Wasak-wasak na DNA yun. Okay? Pero napahimuslan gihapon nila. Okay? So again, only those who have the REC-A protein, we call them competent bacteria, sila lang yung pwedeng mag-absorb ng genetic material galing sa environment. Ayan, the DNA binding protein. That's the REC-A protein. So pag meron yan, edi pwedeng ma-transform ang bacteria. Siyempre kung wala, unsaon. No? So dapat meron silang ganyan. REC-A protein. Okay? So this REC-A protein kasi is important so that ma-combine, no? They could incorporate the absorbed genetic material into their genetic material. Okay, so that's transformation. Now, moving on to transduction. Eto ngayon, no? So transduction is the transfer of DNA fragments from one bacteria to another through a bacteriophage. A bacteriophage is a virus that infects bacteria. Now, there are two types of bacteriophage, no? We have the lytic or the virulent phage, which is quite common in generalized transduction. They cause death or lysis of their host cells. And then you have the temperate phage or the phage lambda. Okay? This is the facilitator for specialized transduction. So let's go check out what's this generalized and specialized transduction. Ayan. So this is generalized transduction. Ayan si bacteriophage. Dala-dala yung kanyang viral genome. Magpa-penetrate na yan. Iiwanan niya yung kanyang viral genome. So yung viral genome ngayon, Masasama yan, no? Kapag nag-assemble. Okay? Ayan. So, eto ngayon, yung bacteriophage na bit-bit-bit-bit, yung DNA ng nasirang bakterya. Ipapasa niya ngayon sa isa pang bakterya. So, yung dala-dala niyang DNA, mamamatch doon or may ididikit doon sa gene, no, nung ating bacteria. Again, tignan natin. So, viral genome. Ayan. So, in the process, magpaparami yung virus dyan. Ayan. So, nag-assemble na yung mga viruses, yung mga virion. So, in the assembly, sa isang virion, may naisamang genetic material nung namatay na bakterya. So, kapag itong bacteriophage na ito, na may bit-bit na DNA, genome, magdedeposito sa isa pang bakterya. So, ang naibigay niya ay yung genetic material nung namatay na bacteria. So, magmimix dun sa gene nung, or chromosome nung second niyang victim. Anong biktima niya? Okay, so that's generalized transduction. So in the process, eto si ano yan, si lytic phage yan, si virulent phage. Okay, di ba wasak na wasak yung ating host bacteria. Now let's take a look at the specialized transduction. Ano bang pagkakaiba? Okay? So ayan, yung viral genome. Katulad lang din ng kanina. Pero ito ngayon si temperate phage. Ayan, dineposito na yung kanyang viral genome. Pero what happens here kay temperate phage, yung kanyang genome ay maiprepare doon sa bacterial chromosome. Okay? So, in the process, no, ng pag-assemble ng mga viruses, bit-bit-bit-bit nila yung genetic material ng virus at yung genetic material ng bacteria na kung tawagin natin ay prophage. Ayan. So, maghahanap na ngayon niya ng biktima. Oh, ito na si temperate phage na may bit-bit-bit-bit na prophage. Kalahating viral genome, kalahating bacterial genome. At mamimix ngayon yan dun sa kanilang panibagong biktima. So, itong bacteria na ito ngayon magkakaroon ng property na ah, galing dun sa isang bacteria at saka galing sa viruses. Okay? So, that's specialized transduction. So, again, tignan natin ulit. Ayan, no? Viral genome is incorporated into the bacterial genome, producing the prophage. Ayan, yung prophage. Okay? So, in the process na mag-create na ng mga virions, no? Ang genetic material na ma-incorporate sa kanila ay merong kalahating viral genome at kalahating bacterial genome. So, pag meron sila, sa pag-release, ayan, so bit-bit-bit-bit nila yung mixed, no, genes at may ipapasa nila ito in another bacterial cell. Examples of organisms that would undergo specialized transduction and acquire special properties afterwards are the Corynebacterium diphtheriae. Okay? Here, Corynebacterium is able to produce severe infections when they undergo specialized transduction. Okay? Si Streptococcus pyogenes is the same. Okay? It is able to acquire different toxins, okay, when they undergo specialized transduction. Clostridium botulinum, okay, and of course, Vibrio cholerae. So these are examples of uh, organisms that would become more powerful if they undergo specialized transduction. Siyempre nga naman, di ba? Kalahati bacterial cell, kalahati viral genome, kalahati bacterial genome. Okay? So, gamhanan. Okay. So again, ano yung nangyayari when specialized transduction occurs? One, cells become more immune to the infection by the same phage. Second, they may exhibit new properties. Siyempre, sino bang hindi, no? Meron silang na-acquire na bagong bacterial genome at viral genome. Okay? And it allows phage to take a bit of the adjacent bacterial DNA. Okay, so genetic variation also occurs. Okay, so mutation, for example, any change in the DNA base sequence is called mutation. It could be point mutation or it could be frame shift mutation. Okay, and then of course, mobile genetic elements like transposons. Okay, ito yung mga jumping genes kung tawagin, no? Mobile DNA segments, yung malilikot na mga plasmids. Okay, so na mga genetic material. So these transposons may sometimes cause plasmids to get integrated into the chromosome. Remember ang plasmid, ito yung mga maliliit na circles of DNA. Okay? Na separate sila from the main chromosomes. However, sometimes, because of the presence of transposons that would jump from plasmid to chromosome, they would cause those two to integrate mahalo. Okay? So this is also responsible for the spread of antibiotic resistance genes. Okay? So yun yung mga properties ng bacterial cell. Okay? So, yun na muna, no, para sa ating first 2 hours. Ewan ko lang kung na 2 hours ba to. Sana naman. Okay, so first 2 hours na discussion natin. So from introduction up to genetics. Okay. At dahil dapat ay 3 hours tayo per week, yung remaining 1 hour natin, okay, na topic ay ipapadala ko through Quipper. So hopefully, no, mahinay-hinaya na to og paminaw ang ato ang lecture video for today. No, make use of your time wisely. No, we should learn from our mistakes. No, from the previous bacteriology lecture that you had. Okay, baguhin natin para makapasa tayo for this round. Okay, so thank you for listening and have a great day.